video, I'm going to give you a detailed description of the Persian alphabet and script. If you're an Arabic or Urdu learner, this video will be useful for you too. But be aware that there are some minor differences. The first letter of the Persian alphabet is Alif. Alif can appear in any of the three positions of a word: initial, medial, or final. In the initial position, it can have 6 sounds. One of these sounds is long ob, as in the word ob or dash. This is always written with a special sign called mat. The next initial sound is short a, as asp or abr. This is represented by a sign called Fatemeh, which is not usually written. The next initial sound is short I, as in imruz or ibtida. This is represented by a sign called kasre below the letter, which is not usually written. The next initial sound is short o, as in the word omid or otab. This is represented by a sign called zamme above the letter, which is not usually written. In the initial position, Alif can also be written before ye and vav to make the long vowel sounds e as in in and u as in u. So far, I have discussed only the initial position. In the medial position, Alif always has the long sound a, as in the word baba or danish. In the final position, like the medial position, Alif also always has a long sound of, as ma or chirag. An important point to know about Alif in regards to orthography or writing is that Alif in any position cannot attach to the next letter. Consider all of the words with Alif that we've seen in this video. Look carefully and notice that none of the Alifs are attached to the next letter. Now I'm going to describe 4 letters B, P, T, S. As you'll notice, they all have the same form. The difference is the number of dots above or below. All of them have 4 forms and can connect to the previous and following letter. The first letter with 1 dot underneath is B. Here are some examples. In the initial position, bad. In the medial position, sabs. And in the final position, seed. And the independent or detached form, ob. The next letter in this group is P, with 3 dots below. Here are some examples. In the initial position, pesar. In the medial position, separ. The final position, chap. And the independent or detached form, tup. The next letter is T, with 2 dots above. Here are some examples. In the initial position, to. In the medial position, ketab. In the final position, waqt. And the independent or detached form, hayat. The next letter is se, with 3 dots above, which is pronounced differently in Persian than in Arabic. Here are some examples. In the initial position, servat. In the medial position, kasif. And in the final position, hadith. And the independent or detached form, ers. The next set of letters are jim, che, he, he. As you'll notice, they all have the same form. The difference is the number of dots above or below. All of them have 4 forms and can connect to the previous and following letter. The first letter in this set is jim, which has 1 dot. Here are some examples. In the initial position, jawab. In the middle position, masjid. And in the final position, pand. And the independent or detached form, taj. The next letter is che, which has 3 dots underneath. Here are some examples. In the initial position, chesh. In the middle position, bache. And in the final position, heat. And the independent or detached form, qarch. The next letter is he, which has no dots. Here are some examples. In the initial position, hijab. In the middle position, muhabbat. In the final position, sob. And the independent or detached form, ruh. The next letter is khed, with 1 dot above. Here are some examples. In the initial position, khoda. In the middle position, sah. In the final position, yah. And the independent or detached form, kah. The next set of letters are dal, zal, re, ze, je. All of these can attach to the previous letter, but cannot attach to the following letter. The first letter is dal. Here are some examples. In the initial position, dast. In the middle position, pedar. And in the final position, bad. And the independent or detached form, dard. The next letter is zal, which is like dal except it has a dot above it. Here are some examples. In the initial position, zorrat. In the middle position, lezzat. And in the final position, laziz. And the independent or detached form, nufuz. The next letter is re, which has a different form than dal or zal, and is not to be confused with them. Here are some examples. In the initial position, ra. In the middle position, baradar. In the final position, pir. And the independent or detached form, madar. The next letter is z, which is like re, except it has a dot above. Here are some examples. In the initial position, zendegi. In the middle position, nazdik. In the final position, tamiz. And the independent or detached form, baz. The next letter is j, which is like re and z, except it has 3 dots. Here are some examples. In the initial position, jakat. In the middle position, mojib. And in the final position, beige, and the independent or detached form, mustache. The next pair of letters are sin and shin. They have the same form, except shin has 3 dots above. They have 4 forms and can connect to both the previous and following letters. Here are some examples of sin. In the initial position, safar. In the middle position, insan. In the final position, tadris. And the independent or detached form, dars. Here are some examples of shin. In the initial position, shab. In the middle position, nishan. In the final position, danish. And the independent or detached form, goosh. The next pair of letters are sad and zad, which are pronounced differently in Persian and Urdu than Arabic. They have the same form, except zad has 1 dot. Starting with sad, here are some examples. In the initial position, soap. In the middle position, tasvir. In the final position, shakhs. And the independent or detached form, makhsus. Now on to zad. Here are some examples. In the initial position, za'if. In the middle position, muzir. In the final position, mariz. And the independent or detached form, ars. The next pair of letters are ta and za, which have the same form, except za has 1 dot. They both have 4 forms and can connect to both the previous and following letters. Here are some examples of ta. In the initial position, tuti. In the middle position, qatre. In the final position, faqat. And the independent or detached form, neshat. Now here are some examples of za. In the initial position, zulmat. In the middle position, nazar. And the final position, lafz. And the independent or detached form, mahfuz. The next pair of letters are ain and ghain, which have the same form, except ghain has 1 dot above it. They both have 4 forms and can connect to the previous and following letters. Here are some examples of ain. In the initial position, ilm. In the middle position, mu'allim. In the final position, sham. And the independent or detached form, shurub. Now on to ghain. Here are some examples. In the initial position, qam. In the middle position, shughl. And in the final position, baligh. And the independent or detached form, chirag. The next pair of letters are fe and qaf. These have a similar form except the independent form and the final position, as well as the number of dots. They have 4 forms and can connect to both the previous and following letters. Here are some examples of fe, which has 1 dot. In the initial position, farda. In the middle position, safid. In the final position, sharif. and the independent or detached form, barf. Now to qaf, which has two dots. Here are some examples. In the initial position, Quran. In the middle position, faqat. In the final position, tahqiq. And the independent or detached form, farq. The next pair of letters are qaf and qaf. These have a similar form, except qaf has an additional line or stroke. They have four forms and can connect to both the previous and following letters. Here are some examples of qaf. In the initial position, keshvar. In the middle position, makan. In the final position, yek. And the independent or detached form, kudak. Now some examples of qaf. In the initial position, qav. In the middle position, negah. And in the final position, rang. And the independent or detached form, buzorg. The next letter is lam. It has four forms and can connect to both the previous and following letters. Here are some examples. In the initial position, lab. In the middle position, kalame. In the final position, dalil. And the independent or detached form, sal. The next letter is mim. It has four forms and can connect to both the previous and following letters. Here are some examples. In the initial position, man. In the middle position, tamiz. In the final position, ism. And the independent or detached form, nam. The next letter is nun. It has four forms and can connect to both the previous and following letters. Here are some examples. In the initial position, namak. In the middle position, panah. In the final position, sen. And the independent or detached form, non. The next letter is vav. It can attach to previous letter, but it cannot attach to the following letter. Here are some examples. In the initial position, vaqt. In the middle position, shalvar. In the final position, nah. And the independent or detached form, gov. A special point to note about the letter vav is that, in addition to being a consonant, it can function as a vowel in the middle and final positions. Here are some examples. In the middle position, nur and dur. And the final position, to and do. The next letter is he. It has four forms and can attach to both the previous and following letters. Here are some examples. In the initial position, hadaf. In the middle position, shahr. In the final position, no. And the independent or detached form, siyah. A special point to note about the letter he is that in the final position of a word, it can have the e sound, not the he sound, as in the word hamishe, hame, and hafte. After the long vowels o and u, however, he always has the H sound, as in Rah, Nah, Ku. The next letter is Ye. It has 4 forms and can attach to both the previous and following letters. Here are some examples. In the initial position, Yad. In the middle position, Besyar. In the final position, Nay. And the independent or detached form, Rai. A special point to note about the letter Ye is that, in addition to being a consonant, it can function as a vowel in the middle and final positions. Here are some examples. In the middle position, Zamin, Tasmim, Bidar. And in the final position, Abi, Zendegi, Dosti. Now that we've gone through all of the letters, an important point to remember is that several letters Alif, Dal, Zal, Re, Ze, Je, Vav cannot attach to the following letter. Another important point to be aware of is that several letters have the same sound. While these letters have different sounds in Arabic, the difference between them has been lost in Persian. The letters I am talking about have several groups. The first group is T and Ta. The second group is Sid, Steen, and Stot. The next group is He and He. The next group is Zal, Zil, Zod, and Zab. The next group is Qain and Qaf. The letters in each group have the same sound as the other letters in that group. I should also mention the vowels in some more detail. Since all words are a combination of both consonants and vowels, in the Perso-Arabic script, short vowels are written with a sign above or below the letter. There are 3 short vowels, A, E, O. A is represented by a sign called Fatemeh above the letter. E is represented by a sign called Kasre below the letter. And O is represented by a sign called Zammeh above the letter. In order to know which of the 3 short vowels a word has, you have to know the word. This is one of the challenging aspects for beginners. Take for example the following words: Shab, which has A, Dil, which has E, and Gul, which has O. These signs, however, are rarely written. In addition to the short vowels, there are 3 long vowels, A, I, U. These, however, are always written. A is written with Alif, as in Ba, Ba, and E is written with Ye, as in Pir, and U is written with Vav, as in Dur. As you've seen, Vav and Ye are also consonants. In this video, I've given you a detailed description of the Persian alphabet. If you're an Arabic or Urdu learner, this may be helpful for you as well. But be careful for pronunciation differences. If you're a beginner and this was a lot of information, or some points remain unclear, don't get discouraged. Watch the video again several times and feel free to ask any questions in the comments.